Hi, this is Kamera again. We're on day number 223, Isaiah 64 through 66. These are the last three chapters in Isaiah. Isaiah, prophet of God, delivering those messages that God gives to him. This has not been an easy read. And sometimes I'm wondering, is he talking to people in the near future or in the distant future? It was not easy for Isaiah to deliver those messages, and a lot of things God told him to write down. And so it's very interesting to see how God felt about what was going on with His people, with the Israelites, with the people from Judah, the other nations. How He felt about that, how He called out to them, how they abandoned Him, how He allowed things to happen to them, and yeah, and we find that God does not like it when we abandon him, and we feel he feels our pain, and he seems like he is hurt as well when we abandon him. But we see how he really feels. That's what I like about the books of the prophets. It shows us God's point of view, and when people turn their backs on him, and how he keeps calling, and people just keep turning their backs, and we're all guilty of that. So when you read the word, guys, take this personally, okay? Because God calls us the same way. The same way Israel went and did their own thing, we're guilty of going our own way too. So take it personally, okay? So the first part of the book, in our reading today, we'll see where it looks like Isaiah is wishing that God would come down from heaven, right? And he said that, the nations would tremble if he came down. And he says, since the world began, no ear has heard, no eye has seen a God like you, who works for those who wait for him. Read the scriptures, guys. See how God reacts to a lot of stuff. He calls out a lot, and it's like he does wait, right? For those who, or he works for those who wait for him, those who trust him, he works for them. God says that he's been angry with the constant sinning, and he takes people, how they try to act like they're righteous, but they're actually sinning. God said that's just like filthy rags to him. He says sin is like, it's like wind. It sweeps us away when we sin. And so, yeah, the Lord then turned us over to our sin because we do not call on his name. And this is the thing, because we don't call on his name. So we're in the middle of sin and we're having a hard time getting out. Are you saying, Lord, call you for help so that we can stop what we're doing and turn back to you? Yeah. You, oh Lord, are our Father. Yes, you are. You are the potter and we are the clay, and you formed us by your hands. And so this person, I'm thinking this is Isaiah, because Isaiah wrote the book. He's pleading for the Lord to help the city at that point. So Isaiah did a lot of praying for Israel. So God says, I was ready to respond. He said, but no one asked for help. No one asked. I was ready to respond. No one asked for help. That says a lot. And I was ready to be found, but no one looked for me. That's some seriously deep stuff there. God says, here I am, here I am. And everyone will look at each other like they're better than each other and thinking they're holier than each other. He said, these people are a stench to my nostrils. These people, they totally insulted him. He said a few times they insulted him with the way they worship idols, the way they worship the dead, and the way they go their own way. So God says, I will not destroy them all. He says, just like there are a cluster of grapes, there are a cluster of bad grapes, there are a few good ones. He said, I still have a few servants. I still have some true servants. But because the rest have forsaken me, the Lord says, I will allow them to bow down to before the executioner. Yeah, I called and you didn't answer, and you sure didn't listen. He says, but my servants will eat, not you. When they're thirsty, they're going to drink, not you. And then when they rejoice, yeah, you'll be too sad and you'll be too burdened to even sing for joy. Yeah, then he talked about this new heaven and this new earth. Remember, Isaiah talked about the near future and the distant future. So then he talked about this new heaven and new earth. And he said some things that are going to happen to the current earth. Yeah, that's some Revelation stuff again, right? Remember, God gave Isaiah these messages. And when you read Revelations, you'll see that God gave John that message. Yeah. So, yeah, the Lord says, heaven is my throne, earth is my footstool. My footstool. Could you build me a better temple? Can you? Can you? That's interesting. And I'm thinking he's talking about our hearts. This temple right here, guys. Or such a resting place. He said, I made both heaven and earth and everything in it. He said, I will bless those who are humble with a contrite spirit. Isn't that something? A contrite heart. Those who go their own ways, basically, he's saying they're not going to be so lucky. He goes through and says what those who are not following him, those ones who are not blessed, who they are, what they do, what will happen to them. He even goes so far as to talk about what's going to happen to the world. Yeah, because then he talks about restoring Jerusalem. He talks about a new heaven and a new earth again as well. So, guys, that's Isaiah. We're in our last 3 chapters of Isaiah. Take the time to read it. Ask God for understanding. And personalize it to yourself when he's talking about Israel, when he's talking about Judah, when he's talking about anyone who's abandoned him. Make sure you check yourself. Ask God to show you yourself and through his eyes, because we can lie to ourselves. But when God tells the truth, don't try to justify it and excuse it. Just say, okay, Lord, I see. Help me to do better. Help me to live life pleasing to you. And help me not to sin, because it's so easy to give into the flesh. That's what Satan does. He attacks our flesh with that pride and help us to be offended easy and help us to not to forgive easily, because he keeps telling us, you're justified, you're justified. They don't, help us to feel lonely and help us to feel unloved and disliked. That's Satan's job, to get us distracted from God. So, guys, take the time to read Isaiah and remember what God says through the whole book, basically how people turned on him and abandoned him, and how he loved and how he reached and he called and all that stuff. So, guys, yeah, this is some good stuff. We're going into Jeremiah tomorrow. So, yeah, guys, that was a prophet Isaiah. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. So, yeah, guys, that was day number 223, Isaiah chapters 64 through 66. You have a God-filled blessed day.